Truly love something, you stick with it even when it gets old and gray. Make sure my lady friend sees this. I have always thought that there's a miniature gene, that certain people get it and certain people don't. I can see anything tiny and just really enjoy it. Kind of like a dollhouse, a railroad layout, tank models, airplane models, figures. And I like the miniaturization concept. I don't know if it's something good or bad, but it's the way it is. None of my children have it. None of them understand what I do. I accept that as more mainstream than what I do. But I just love anything miniature. And as a little boy, I built airplanes and tanks, and I love the tanks the best. And so I just kind of catered to that as time went by. And then later, figures came in the tank kits, and I tried to build them. And then one thing led to another, and now I'm kind of addicted to the whole process. And having been in the hobby for over 40 years, considerably over 40 years, I guess I got back in the hobby about 40 years ago, and that ages me considerably, but I am old. And what kind of changes have been? Well, obviously the technical aspects of the kits that you buy are a whole lot better now. We have standard scales now that we didn't have then. 35th scale wasn't even a gleam in anyone's eye back when I was starting to model. And of course everything fits better now that computers are doing it instead of building. Originally what they would do is they would have a master builder build one, and then they'd take it apart and make the parts from that. Now it's all done on the computer. So the tolerances and fit are all so much better than they ever were back in the day. But the main thing is the techniques for finishing. Okay, you've got a lot more weathering going on now. You've got a lot more panel fading. You've got the end product looks a whole lot more realistic than it did in the old days. The few people that really made them look super realistic in the old days were masters. Now their stuff pales in comparison to some of the new people and all the new techniques. Again, some of the AK, the MIG, all of these type of things are nothing. The things they do is nothing new, but they make it easier. You don't have to take your own oil paints, mix them and thin them. You just open up the jar and use what someone else has already mixed up. In the old days, you'd buy a kit and there would always be something that needed fixing. And modeling was fixing the errors. There are no errors anymore. It's just how much extra detail to add to them. And so there's not as much modeling in the models. It's more construction and finishing, which is fine with me because I never have been a scratch builder. I never have been a great modeler, but I'm not bad at finishing and construction, so therefore I'm in my element. Well, you're mentioning the concept of collaborations. Collaboration would be more than one person participate in building a project. Generally, I have collaborated with Henry Nunez on several projects. Mainly because Henry's a better figure painter than I am. I'm not bad, but Henry's better. And Henry likes to paint some of the stuff that I produce, and the end product is nicer. And also on a big project like a diorama, sometimes there's so much to do that you get tired of it and don't finish it. Well, this is a great way to make sure that you finish a project, that you divvy up who does what. And I do the groundwork because that's more my forte. I'll do a tank because he doesn't do the tanks, or the artillery piece, and I'll animate or convert the figures, and then he'll paint the figures. And the combination of the two ends up with a better product, and it also guarantees that we're going to finish. And I wouldn't mind doing it with other people. Look at Willie Nelson. He sings with everybody. I'd love to be the guy that everybody wants to sing with like Willie. Mm-hmm. He doesn't sing worth a damn, but everybody wants to sing with him. No matter where you are, there's going to be a club. It's going to be IPMS, amps. Like in our case, we actually have both in town, and we also have a figure club between Austin and San Antonio, the Lone Star Military Miniature Society, and all of which, since I'm retired, I got plenty of time to go attend, and I do, and I enjoy other people that have that same miniature gene. And as I said, I'm a social modeler. I like people. I like being around people that like what I like. I like seeing good work. I adore seeing good work. I love finding out how to make mine better by talking to people who do things that I like. If somebody does a great job on painting a wooden door, that I will sit down there and talk to them about painting wooden doors, and the next wooden door I do will be better. It is very much a team sport. The modeler in itself is a very solitary proposition, because you build and paint and everything at home. You don't go out and, okay, let's all 6 of us get together and build. Well, I've actually done many clubs where we did stuff like that, but you don't get as much accomplished if you're doing it by yourself. But it is very much a by yourself. For everybody that's in a club, there's probably 10 that are not in a club. And they're probably not in a club because sometimes they're not, either number one, they're not social. Number two is they didn't feel like they were welcomed very much, and they just don't want to put themselves out in case their stuff isn't as good as everyone else's out there. I felt that same way, and I'd go and kind of tuck my head down and hope my stuff was acceptable, and then look at it and says, God, why did I even bring it? Mine doesn't work. But the trick is, bring what you're working on. It generates 2 things. Number one, it generates confidence on your part. Number 2 is somebody's going to come up and ask you about it. In fact, I think several of us make an effort when we have a new guy show up to walk over there and chat with them. Being in among a company of people with like interests is even more fun, and you can talk about the stuff you can't talk about with any of your other friends. No one knows what Tamiya means. Nobody knows what sprue is or photo etched, and with people that do, it's so much fun to sit there and open up. When I'm doing a diorama, the story sometimes just the project itself stimulates the diorama. Sometimes, let's say I get a cursed panther, and I've always wanted to do something with a cursed panther burning up on the road on the way to Kursk, because most of them didn't make it all the way. That might stimulate what I'm going to do with it. It may very well be that the figures that are available are really cool, so therefore I build the tank that should go with them. In so doing, like you were talking about a long-range desert group truck, and I find some great long-range desert group figures. Well, I might go pull out my desert group truck, build it so that they'll have something to interact with. But generally, it develops as time goes by, and I have a general idea of what I'm going to do with it, and then how can I make it a better story. And sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. My favorite one that was a tremendous success, but it wasn't supposed to be, was I built a LVTA-1 on the beach with one of the tracks broken, like it was abandoned down there. Well, the reason was the cat ate the tracks, my daughter's cat, and so I only had a short section of track, and I couldn't put it all the way around it. So I ran it back into the water, and it looks really cool, but it was an accident. Sometimes accidents work. I really love to see good work, and I love to stimulate other people to do good work. And the better work they do, the better work they'll make me have to do. And I just love models. And there's so much that the modelers don't know about figure painting that I want to help a little bit, because it's not rocket science. It's all there's a lot of tricks, just like there's tricks on doing road wheels, taking the seams off road wheels. There's tricks on attaching photo etch. There's tricks on all of this stuff that we know as modelers, but the average modeler looks at a figure and says, that's magic. How does he make him look like a real person? this is something I don't understand at all. Well, it's just there's simple techniques that you can use to enhance your capability to make the figures as good as the vehicles. And again, one of the things we were talking about earlier is it's nice to include a figure because it gives you scale and it adds to the story, and a well-painted figure will enhance a tank, but a poorly painted figure will be a detriment to your vehicle. And so you got to put as much effort into if you're doing a diorama, you got to put as much effort into every item on that thing. The walls have to look just as good as the tank, which just has to look just as good as the figures, because you can't phone in one of them, or else it stands out like a rotten apple. So therefore, one of the things that we do is figure painting workshops. Now, when you say that, we have a club that meets in San Marcos, Texas, halfway between San Antonio and Austin, every second Saturday. We eat Mexican food, and then we go to the library and we paint all afternoon from 12:30 to 5. And we developing some pretty good painters out of the deal. And another thing that we do too is we get with the local hobby shops and we'll do a beginner's figure class, Henry and I. And we go in there, and I'll donate some figures and simple figures and help people develop the beginning traits and see if they like doing it. And I've gotten some gold medal painters that got stimulated from doing that, not from my skills, but they generated enough skills to where they kept after it until they got better and better and way past me. And I'm real proud of that. But somebody's got to, you got to start somewhere, and you got to, success is all based on previous successes and confidence. And so once you got the confidence and the success and some of the basic tenets, then you can improve on that. Stick with it. If you like it, keep doing it. And the other thing is, go to club meetings. Be outrageously pushy with the people. Take a look at the stuff that you really like. If you like how Ian paints the thing, talk to him about paint. You like how Joe builds it, talk to him about the build. You like how Mary does her figures, talk to her about the figures. Sit down with them. Everybody loves to talk about what they love. So you're going to get some good information. Some people occasionally will blow you off, but pass it up and move to the next guy. There's plenty of good people that love to help. There's so few of us in the hobby that we need to keep proselytizing. We don't want the hobby to get smaller. We want to keep it getting bigger. And, I've learned stuff from brand new modelers who didn't know they couldn't do something, and they did it. And I says, how the hell did you do that? Well, I didn't know what to do, so I just tried this, and it worked great. Wow, that is so cool. And that's what half of the fun of modeling is making things work. And especially in dioramas, as you said, you want to try new things constantly. Once you've got the hang of doing tanks and figures, what do you do next? More tanks and figures? Yeah, some people do, but some people put them in the environment where they should be. There is no environment where I've ever seen a tank on a polished wooden plank. They're in the dirt, they're in the mud, they're in the sand. Same thing with people. And so they need to be shown in the environment they're in. But how do you make the sand in scale? How do you make the rocks look like rocks? How do you make the trees look like trees? That in itself is a skill. And everything that you learn, everything in life is learning. And if you learn something new every day, you're really progressing. And just be proud of what it is that you do, but be prouder of your next project, which is going to be better. Well, I used to do a lot better in shows than I do now. And the young guys pass you, and you got to accept it. And a lot of people don't, and they drop out of the hobby. I'm one of the old guys that stayed in regardless of his lack of success, because I still love the hobby. I think that the true love of the hobby is what keeps should keep us all in it, not competitiveness. The competitiveness is nice because it gets us to the shows and it makes us try harder than we did the last time. If you got a bronze medal, you want a silver medal. If you want a silver medal, you want a gold medal. I'm going to try harder and harder and harder. And we've got it all in us, but that is the extra stimulus that we need. We actually had an outfit decide that they were going to do a figure show with no awards. Nobody showed up. Then they had another one with awards. Everybody showed up. And again, it's human nature, and you can't discount human nature. Political correctness says it shouldn't be, but it is. And so human nature trumps everything. And human nature is that you want to be rewarded for your good work, and there's two kinds of awards. There's the anonymous award from 3 or 5 independent people to give you a little medal. My favorite awards that I've ever gotten at shows were when Mike Good, my favorite sculptor, walked up to me one time and said, "I love the animation you did on this scratch-built figure. I'll never sell that figure. I'll never give it away. I mean, that's better than any gold medal I could have ever gotten for it." Another guy, Brian Stewart, the world's best groundwork guy, came up and said, "I love the groundwork on that guy." That's worth a whole lot more to me because I knew the source. And I mean, it's like, God comes up and says, "Hey, you're doing a good job, son." You don't need to have something to hang around your neck.